Okay, I think we're live. Let's try this out.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to another episode of Unprinted Pages. And I'm pretty sure you guys have probably seen me sharing all the random posts of Samuel Denhartog on my page of all types of things. There's poetry, there's fables, there's science fiction, there's dystopian books, there's all types of books. Welcome to the show, Samuel Denhartog. You are an impressive author.
Thanks, Jenny. I'm happy to meet you and be with you. And you did a great job pronouncing my last name.
I should have asked before the show. I'm so glad I got it right.
You did it perfect.
So please tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, I'm 52. For most of my life, since probably about 14 years of age professionally, I was a computer programmer. Before starting to write books a year ago, for the last 15 years, I've been making video games and a little bit of small animated film production, and now I'm an author.
That is definitely amazing and I doubt nobody knows what parts of your life they have touched with the video games and the videos.
Yeah, the video games in particular. It's weird. One of the game that I made that's the most popular is Mahjong Deluxe, and I actually made that because my mother asked me, "Hey, make a Mahjong game," and I'm glad I did because that game today continuing is what continues to make the money that really allows me to be a book author.
That is amazing. So you have so many genres. Which of the genres that you have written has given you the most inspiration to write your own books?
Well, it's some of it's amazing. Like I've done some romance books, and I've never really read romance books. I actually just recently bought to read them, but starting off of those. So those have been kind of interesting because they seem to be enjoyed the most by my readers. The books I wrote for myself over the last year, I would say in many ways, I have a mythology series, mythology anthologies, and a fable series, fable anthologies. The mythologies cover mythologies from different cultures all around the world, their gods, a little bit into their legends, their heroes. And then the fables are much more, they're fairy tales, they're more fabulous things from lots of different groups. And those books, well, my readers really like them. In a lot of ways, coming from having done programming for so many years, it was a way to really teach myself about all the stories of the world with the fables, that I think I can use those as a basis to kind of, these are stories that have lasted for hundreds of years in many cases, teaching me, what are great parts of fantasy stories that I can potentially use to inspire different things in my own stories as I start to create much more of just purely original content.
Where did you get the inspiration and want to actually start writing?
Well, every December, I always with my video game company, I would always take the whole month of December off, give all my employees the whole month of December off. I always say if it's not done by December, it's too late anyhow. So starting last year on November 27th, I decided I would try to write a book. And my first book was a little shorter than a lot of my books since, I would say, as a first book would, but I enjoyed the process so much that I decided I don't want to make video games anymore. I want to write books. And so I've been doing it ever since. And that's when I kind of started reading about prolific writers who wrote many books, and came across Isaac Asimov, somebody that I read his books when I was a child. I read like 12 of his books, and I thought, oh, that's most of what he wrote. And I found out he wrote over 500 books. And then I came across this guy, Ryoki Inui, in Brazil. And he had been a thoracic surgeon until he was 41. And in 1986, he started writing books. So much like me, he wasn't an author his whole life. He was doing something else. He started writing books. He loved it. He quit being a surgeon. Somehow, like me, his wife still, didn't leave him. And in his first 6 years, he wrote 999 books. And at this point, he has, I think, between around 12 or 1,300 books. So I decided if he could do it, I could too. I said I don't plan on doing 999 in my first 6 years, but I kind of set a goal for myself to write 10 books a month. 12 months a year. So doing 120 books a year for the next 12 years, with the goal of trying to do 1,440 books.
And that is epic. And your current catalog is already humongous and beautiful and epic in and of itself. Which has been your favorite one to write so far?
Oftentimes, I would say the last one, whatever book I just wrote, is my favorite in many cases. I have a series, I put it at the top of my page, even though it's only 2 books right now. I'm probably going to do at least a third, called The Magic of Coal Mountain. It's my Coal Mountain series. Actually, the first book, Goblins of Coal Mountain, was sort of inspired by George MacDonald's book, The Princess Bride. I believe that's the name of it. And so, I sort of used that as, okay, I'm going to create my own tale out of this. But in creating my own tale, in The Princess Bride, there's the great grandmother of the daughter who's like now a fairy, and she really helps her and the boy, I think it was Curtis and theirs, but she helps, and so I kept some of those things in mind. But when I got that book done, I thought to myself, well, where did she come from? This great grandmother. And so my book takes place in Coal Mountain, which is really in West Virginia. The first book takes place around 1870. The second book, which in some ways could almost be the first because it's a prequel, going back to before that, to the late 1700s, around 1770, to make it, generations before, and tells the story of the grandmother and how her family, her parents actually, it starts with her parents even. So going even one generation back, how they came over from England, originally getting the mountain to become sheep farmers, and then it becoming this whole coal mountain. And it goes through her story as a child and growing up and how she gets turned into a fairy kind of at the end of the book. So I think those are two of my favorite books out of all the books I've written so far, which is why even though there's only two of them, I have them at the top of my website in front of, you know, all my different series and things like that, because they're my personal favorites.
That is amazing, and definitely going to have to take the time to read those.
Yeah, they're very different styles in that you know, the first one was based a lot on George MacDonald's. And so, you know, that was a book that in some ways, you know, not a children's book necessarily, but at least a young teenager or whatever. And then my second book goes into a lot more history. My second book was probably the only book I've done so far where I didn't do an outline. Like normally every book I do. Now, granted, if it's mythologies or fables, I just come up with a list of fables or mythologies, and they're each kind of short. But every other book I like to do an outline. I read a lot of articles on Quora. It's this place where once you start reading some articles about authors, you get emails every day with articles from other authors. But some people say don't do outlines. Some people say do. I like to do an outline. I've learned that you got to be willing to deviate from the outline as you're writing, though. Like you start writing and then you think, no, maybe I want to take this in another direction. But the Magical Mountain, that second one, I didn't actually do an outline, and I think it turned out as one of my better books, at least so far. It's only got a few ratings so far, but it's done very well with the ratings, and but I'm still not quite ready to continue doing more books without an outline.
That was definitely one of the questions on the list. Are you a plotter or a pantser? And if you are more comfortable being a plotter, I definitely recommend staying a plotter because it's whatever makes you comfortable when writing.
Right. So for yeah, when you get on Quora, there's very opinionated people. You can, you know, the ones that are plotters, you know, and the ones that are, what was the other word you used?
Pantser.
Pants. Oh, by the seat of your pants. Okay, right. So pantster. Yeah, the pantsters say that's the only way, and the plotters seem. I agree with you. Go with what works for you, and for me, I like plotting, but I've definitely learned don't get too tied to your plot. Even the current book I'm working on, I spend about 3 hours creating a plot. I would say that's my average time, but this one I spent about 10 hours on the first day just creating the plot and my good kind of outline. Here's what I want to do, doing research, filling it all out. This book I'm currently working on is my 7th book in my Anaya Hawk series, which is a mystery series where she's a detective with neural links and other bioenhancements. It's in the future, and she solves mysteries, but also uses her bioenhancements during them. But I really wanted this to be a good one, so I spent 10 hours planning the book. And then the next day I start writing the book. And by the time I got about to like the 5th chapter, I realized, no, I want to go in way different directions than everything I just spent planning. So it's not, I'm not quite flying by the seat of the pants, but it definitely is as I develop the story, I'm realizing I want to, like you get inspired sometimes to deviate. And I think if you feel that, don't be afraid to move away from your plot.
I agree. And that is great advice. I have never been able to be good at plotting. I have like certain things I want to happen in a story, and then I have to figure it out from there. And it just confuses people because I will write the story out of order. Are you a write completely in order guy, or are you an out of order person?
Overall, I'd say I'm a write very much in order guy. I haven't really tried to write things out of order. I mean, on the Coal Mountain, granted, the second book did come before the first, but they're still the books themselves. I would say almost all of my books go in order. Obviously, you know, The Witcher, where it can jump around a little bit in order. Some things, you know, it can be interesting to go to write out of order. I don't know, even after 1 year, I don't know if I'm quite ready for that yet. But I've definitely read books that go out of order, and
No, what I mean is
it's good if you can pull it off.
What I mean is you write a scene that is like in the middle of the story, and then you write a scene that's at the beginning, and then you write a scene in between, like the middle and the end, or the middle and the beginning, but you write those scenes of the story themselves.
Now, oh, okay, that's true. There's definitely times I don't necessarily write like, but I already sort of have my outline. But there's definitely times I think, no, I really want to finish this down here, and then I go back and fill in some parts up to that. So that does happen sometimes. I don't always necessarily write in order. And there's times you get down here and you think, no, I need to change. You know, it's amazing. Even though I write my books on a pretty tight schedule, I do go back and re-edit and change things sometimes because I realize I need to not usually it's not huge modifications, but you know, I want to clean this up and change it a little bit here so that this thing down here fits in just a little bit better, things like that. And sometimes, yeah, you've got the ending or some part of the story so much in your mind that you feel like I need to, as I think about my Trolls of Coal Mountain book, I haven't started on it yet, but that's probably because the plot, like I'm always thinking about the plot for that one in my mind eventually for when I start it. And I've got like, you know, 4 out of what I want to do, 24 chapters in my mind, but they're not the first 4. They're like, you know, one that'll be here, one that I want to have and so that's why I keep thinking about it until I probably will do an outline yet before I actually start the book, but I haven't really formed, like I've got some ideas, but I don't have the whole book in my mind yet.
That is awesome. If you could pick one character out of all of your books that you have written to just sit down and have coffee or tea or whatever your favorite beverage is and just talk with them, which character would that be?
Well, I'm working on Anaya Hawk right now, so it's like kind of like what's my favorite book, whatever book I'm working on right now. She's a fascinating character with all of her bio enhancements. She's got a neural link that's very powerful. It lets her constantly like be connected and see things in her mind, but also visual links and audio links. I think it would be interesting to talk to her and get her perspective on different things. You know, I try to even bring that out in the book some. She herself is one of the few people that has that. It's not a society where everybody has that yet. And so she herself feels disconnected from society, which I guess maybe, you know, in some ways reminds me of myself. I often feel disconnected from society a little bit. So I think I would enjoy talking to her and, you know, we could talk about how we feel disconnected from society.
That is awesome. Are you a coffee or a tea person?
Red Bull.
Red Bull?
Yeah, Red Bull. I just drink 1 Red Bull each morning. That definitely gets me, you know, helps jumpstart my day. So you don't want to drink Red Bull all day long. I would not recommend that to anybody. And then I like to have, it's a diet Red Bull. You know, I don't need extra sugar in. And then I drink 1 diet Mountain Dew. My wife loves coffee. She probably does 5 coffees a day or something. But yeah, I pretty much, I like water. You know, I in some ways I'm into a routine. Like I wake up with my Red Bull, I do my Mountain Dew usually around 11 o'clock or so, and then the rest of the day I drink water.
Okay, that is cool. You have multiple different children's stories, and you have themes like rhyme, children's rhymes, and alphabets, and you have beautiful characters like dragons and sheep and all sorts of different animals. What started you out on picking animals and fantasy creatures to be your children's books?
Well, the alphabet mystery. I've got different alphabet books like the dragons and the fairies, which take dragons and fairies and then makes a story for each letter of the alphabet. My alphabet mysteries is like the same type of thing, except for it's 26 mysteries. Each mystery really start being about an object that starts with the letter of the alphabet. That one, I named the character Mary Mead, and she's in Marpleville, and it was sort of inspired in a funny way by Agatha Christie, which had the Miss Marple, but she's in Marpleville, and Miss Marple came from, I think, Meadville or something like that. So it sort of reversed it in that book. Now my Nighty Night Tales, which is I take an animal, whether it's a rabbit or a panda. People seem to like my panda one particularly. I like the rabbit, but I take the animals and I try to create a bunch of tales out them. And that one's been fun as I do more fables books. So I'm getting these fables from all around the world, which are with people generally. Granted, in the fables books, there's lots of stories about animals, but those are like, clever foxes or things like that. But I'm able to take some of those fables and then convert them into, that animal being involved in a similar type of situation, with a giant or things like that were in the fables, but it being animals involved in that same type of scenario. The rabbit one I particularly like because I even took Phantom of the Opera and sort of put rabbits into a Phantom of the Opera type story, but it was a rabbit singer, and the sort of shadow rabbit was actually just this really tall rabbit, and he always hid in the shadows because he was just so more extremely tall than really any other rabbits that, he was always attacked if he came out of the shadows.
And that's the coolest part with the retellings, changing them to animals, because you can get the tiny ones in your stories, and then they appreciate those stories and want to look for more, and they'll find your fables. It's the thing that I have loved is you have Martians, you have fairies, you have dragons, you have animals, and it's just something different to catch the eye and catch the brain and the imagination and
I think for
inspire them to
myself,
want
even,
more.
I think for myself, even, you might ask why I do that. My kids, I have 3 children. I mean, with my wife, one is hers from a prior marriage, but she's in her 30s. But my other 2 kids are both away at university now, 20 and 23. My daughter changed her major a few times, so she's still there. But so I don't. My wife's oldest daughter, our oldest daughter, she does have. We have one grandchild who's 7. And that's actually was also another reason why I did translate all of my Nighty Night Tales into Spanish, because he only speaks Spanish, and to be able to try to read him English, they teach a little bit of English, but not near enough for him to be interested in a whole tale that's in English. But I think more the reason why I do it is when you're writing a lot of books, I would say it's like a creative ADD or something. No offense to people with actual ADD, but like I would get bored if every book I wrote was a romance, or every book I wrote was a fable, or every book was a mystery. I have to jump around because it keeps it fun for myself. Like even if I'm really enjoying something, by the time I've done about 3 books in a row of that particular sort of genre, I'm ready for like I got to do something else, and for at least 2 or 3, like I've got to jump around, because otherwise, like I said, otherwise it becomes a lot less fun, I guess.
That makes sense. And no, I did not take offense to the ADD thing, because I had actually wondered if you like subject copying because you may have the same type of neurodivergencies like I have. But if you don't, that is great, because
Right. It's not like ADD itself. I'm very, very focused when I'm working on whatever book I'm working on. But it is this sort of it's this ability to continuously be creative. I have to be doing different types of books. Like I love writing books, but my series have grown. But I'll do, like I said, usually I can do about 3 maximum of one type of genre, and then I've got to switch to something else, because otherwise, I don't think I could keep up the rhythm and I lose interest on my own, even sort of. I don't think I could push myself to do it if I wasn't switching to different, switching and moving around to different types of things.
Do you have a current comfort read author or series?
I don't read as much as I like, but one of the things with doing all of the fables that I've been reading about lately is something that's called romantasy books. And so I just ordered Fourth Wing, which is by Rebecca Yarros, and then A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is by Sarah Moss. And that one I even got in Spanish, so my wife can read it at the same time as me. The Spanish version I got in English and Spanish. I prefer reading in English. Yeah, English is my first language, but then we can both talk about it and enjoy the same book together. So I'm excited to read these. I don't have any that I would call romantasy yet myself, but I want to do some, not copying their ideas, but I'm looking forward to reading it more to learn about the genre. And having done all of these fables books, I've got 22 in that series now. Like I feel excited about the idea of figuring out, how do you cross romance and sort of fantasy into one book and doing it in a way that people like. And clearly people like it. They say that Fourth Wing book was the most checked out book in the libraries in 2024 or something like that. So it's a popular genre, and I'm looking forward in this coming year to starting to take a stab at it myself after I've read those two books.
I don't think you're going to have that hard of a time with romantasy as an author. You have figured out different types of fables and all that, which goes into fantasy. And you can use those different things you've hit on and pick different, like, fairies or any type of creature you like.
Right. I feel like I feel like I've got the fantasy part down. Romance, they're my most common, like, rated on Amazon books. They get a lot of downloads, and they seem to get, even in Kindle Unlimited, the most reads, even if they're not rated as well. I don't know, like, I've had to learn by looking at the ratings I get, sort of like I've done some romance where I got a little more detailed, not mentioning body parts, but more like a little bit more passionate. And then I've got others like Whispers Under Western Skies, where it ends with a kiss. People see my books that just end with a kiss. Or so my new model for romance, whether perfect or not, is sort of a maximum of one or two kisses. As opposed to, in my mind, being a man, maybe, I don't know, but thinking, romance is a physical thing, but obviously it's much more about, telling the story. I've learned to like romance in that I realize romance is a nice framework for telling any story that I want to tell, going, whether it's fantasy or going back to a particular time frame, which I also like doing. I like going back and going into history or what a medical, the Western, this starting tomorrow. I took Whispers Under Western Skies. It's one of my most rated books. It's got 51 ratings, which for me is very good. A lot of times my books get no ratings or one or two. So, but I did two more, and they come out tomorrow. All three of them are going to be free. I put it there, so they're standalone, but I put them into a series that I called Untamed Hearts of the West. So that I'm hoping to start creating more Western romances over time.
And definitely, and still remember, being a fade to black romantasy author is perfectly fine. Where they start out,
as I read about romantasy, but as I read about romantasy, that's why I got the books, because I've not read it. Like as I understood from what I've read, the articles I've read, these other books go a little bit more deeper into physical relationships than maybe I have. And they're very popular. So I'm not. I'm still. So that's why I thought I need to read these. I need to see what they've done and see what the limits are and how they do it. Like as you said, I've got the fantasy, fairy tale type world, fables things all in my mind. But how, how do they pace things? How deep do they go into the relationships? How they attack them? It's. I've only done about, now with the 9 romance books, but I still feel like I'm really just dipping my toes into the water and learning. And yeah, this next year, because I do see my readers respond to it, I want to do a lot more, but not all of the same genre as we talked about, because that would be boring for me even. So I'm looking excited to like try romance, but jumping around to different styles and types and seeing what I can do and people respond to.
Definitely. That's why I suggested go as far as you're comfortable, because I'm going to tell you right now, in some of these books, they go farther than you'll expect. I definitely do not suggest starting at this part of your looking into romance with Laurel K. Hamilton, because of what's in her books and how far she goes and how many partners
You
that
do suggest
people end up with.
that I read her.
No, I'm saying don't read hers until you've read others first.
Okay. Don't think that's just the way to do it necessarily or whatever. Yeah, no, I myself am probably more comfortable than my readers. Maybe like I get certain readers that say, "Is this book going too far?" I did 2 books that I call the vampire cookbooks. They're not cookbooks actually. It's a vampire, and he's bisexual, and that, you know, like I said, I don't go deep, but you know, he has sex a lot as he goes around. He always extracts blood from people, but more in a very polite way. And then he cooks things using the blood, and he actually enjoys the meal with the person he took the blood from. And you know, they don't always end up in relationships, like 1 out of every 5. But you know, it may be male and it may be female. And it was sort of funny. I live in Mexico, and somehow my kids are more conservative than I am. I'm pretty flexible on what I can write. But my daughter said to me, she goes, "Well, how could you write a book about bisexual sex when you're not even bisexual?" And I said, "I'm not a vampire either."
Oh yeah. You can make amazing things and not be that. You just have to be willing
Right,
to
exactly.
learn.
I don't, you know, want to limit what I write based on just what I am. That wouldn't even be any fun for me.
Oh yeah, I definitely recommend reading and exploring uh the different romances, because there's all so many ways you can go with it, but also I appreciate how many different genres you've given all your readers and their children to be able to look at.
Right. Yeah, no, my children's books are very, and that's one of the things, I think, now, you know, I don't know everything out there, but on my children's books, I actually, on those, more than, like, I think there's plenty of children's books that do teach kids things, you know, how to use the bathroom or morals or this. Like my children's books, most of all, I try to just teach kids. They're about imagination, sometimes about friendship, but, you know, about imagination and friendship and just having fun, because you know, that's what I think kids need so much. And in many ways, you know, not being a professional children's writer or whatever, I think they're in many ways made that adults can read them. You know, maybe the children, I might use some words that children might not know, but that gives an adult, if they're reading the book together with their children, a chance to, you know, grow their vocabulary a little bit as they're reading the books and the different stories. But they're all very fun, just stories, just focused on imagination in many ways. And so and my children's books are a lot of time my best rated books too. Like people seem to really like my children's books, so I must be doing. They don't buy them. I almost never have sold, you know, very, very little revenue, but when they're free, they're downloaded more than anything else, and they get great comments and a lot of good feedback from people that say they enjoy them with their children. They've enjoyed reading them, so I still enjoy doing them, even though they don't really make that much for me, just because you know, they're fun for me to create too.
Sorry, you had your internet glitched and it was hard to hear the last
Oh,
part.
okay. I'm not sure how much you missed. I was just talking about how much I enjoy creating the children's books. Like they're fun for me to create as well, because you know, they're just filled with imagination and fun stories. Is my connection better now?
Yes. And since we had talked about the first part of why you keep switching genres, He wants to know why romantasy became.
Well, as you know, I read more about different authors and books, and so I would say Google itself, when I go to Google News, starts to refer me to articles about different books. And there's been articles about romantasy, and I didn't even know it existed as a genre until probably like a week ago. I just ordered the books. I don't get them to December 8th. Because I live in Mexico, it takes a while before things get here. So I'm looking forward to resuming. But it's also sort of that, my plan is to create this 1,440 books. If you want to do something like that, you're not always going to stick with the same genre, or you just get wiped out. So it's not that I want to do just romantasy, but just like I've taken my one Western book. I only had one Western book, and now I have three, and I even have three more plan. Like, I'll probably grow that series. I'm thinking I can take, like, it's fun for me to have a lot of different series, and then it allows me to jump around more. It allows me to learn different things myself, to research different things, and keeps it interesting, hopefully for me and for the people that like reading what I write.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out which of my list of questions we've hit and which ones I haven't done yet, because I have a running list in my head, and I'm trying to ask different ones as we go. And some of them you just hit on before I get the chance to answer, and I appreciate that.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know what's on the list. So
Well, I'm not complaining about that. You don't have to apologize. Please don't apologize. Please keep being awesome. What has when you say you have started writing in westerns and you've done 3, is there a western book or TV series or whatever that had inspired any of their characters?
No, it's as I would say, I don't always write things. I mainly started writing. I wrote one because I thought it would be like, sometimes I write books because I think sort of like romantasy. It'll be fun to try this. So I wrote the first one, and then I saw that people really liked that. So as I'm going into my second year, I'm, like I said, I'm running out of fables and mythologies. Probably one of the difficult things about writing 1,440 books is to come out with 1,440 different ideas. And so my second Western book is called Gold Digger's Daughter. And that it's about a gold digger that goes out to California right after the gold rush, and then his daughter goes with him to work the claim with him, and then she falls in love with the guy who's working the claim next to theirs. So initially, obviously, I came up with the title first, like just the idea and the title in my head, and I thought it would be fun to learn more about just the whole gold digging California. Like, in some ways, every book I write a little bit is like, it would be fun for me to learn more about the California gold rush and what they did, and in every book I write, there's something I learn. So in Gold Digger's Daughter, I learn about how they work the claims, how they break up the side of the rivers with the pickaxe and then shovel it into the things and separate everything. You get to learn. When I did Magic of Coal Mountain, just jumping around, like, that book was great because they started as sheep farmers. And so I got to learn a lot about sheep farming. I've never done sheep farming. How do they reproduce, which is amazing. They actually have a really high, they reproduce once per year. They usually get pregnant in the fall. The people that are doing them try to maintain it this way. And then they reproduce in the spring. And they'll have about 50% female and 50% males. But they don't need that many males. So it's the males that, you can eat, you can do other things with. And then I learned about cheese making. So I had to, I wanted them to make cheese, and I realized that the thing that makes the cheese, converting the cheese, actually comes out of the sheep's stomach itself. And they have to kill the sheep within the first year to get this chemical out of their stomach that they can then use to take the sheep's milk and make cheese. And then there's obviously a lot of coal mining in the book. So I start learning about a lot of coal mining. So a lot of times, I think what I like writing most about books, when I was programming, I was constantly learning, but it was always learning new methods, new technologies, new programming language, but I'm always learning. And with writing books, it's the same way, but it's way funner because I could never talk about programs with anybody who wants to hear about, some new language or new line or new method I learned. But with books, I'm always constantly learning, but I'm learning about all kinds of things. It doesn't mean I could go be a sheep farmer or know how to make cheese completely in the real world, but I get to learn and investigate and read about all these different things. And so I think that's what inspires me to write different books too, is that it gives me a reason to learn new things myself.
Have you ever tried any of the things you've learned that when you were researching? Like you
Um,
have you tried making the cheese or any of
no,
the things?
like I said, I liked reading about it, but yeah, I'm not going to go cutting a sheep open, trying to take the thing out, trying to make my own cheese. And I don't know if it were the end of the world that I learned enough by writing the book that I could actually do it. So I'm learning about it, but at a high level. Plus, I mean, since I started this, I work about 7 days a week. Somewhere between 6 to 10 hours every day. Like I don't really have too much time to make cheese.
Okay, yes. I just had wondered because sometimes in researching or something I've read, I'm like, ooh, I want to find out if I can do that. And
No, even with
I
the
know the
vampire books,
practicality of it.
like even when I did the vampire book, I was never inspired to make recipes with a lot of blood in them.
Oh, well, there's blood sausage and all that good stuff. So for all I
True.
know, you had tried, but I didn't think you had tried with real human blood. But um,
Exactly.
I what has been the most surprising thing you have found in researching?
That's a good question. I mean, in some ways, I mentioned the cheese because the most surprising thing for me is the thing that makes the milk turn into cheese actually comes from the inside of one of the stomachs of the sheep themselves. That was surprising to me. In every book I learned, as I said, right now I'm working on my new Anaya Hawk book, which is called The Watchmaker's Paradox. And all of the books sort of take place in futuristic San Francisco. But I get to, in this particular book, she visits all these places around San Francisco. And so I get to research each of those different places. I think the reason I did the vampire cookbook, and what probably makes it not a great book in some ways, is in each chapter, the vampire visits, he's got his own private jet. He flies, and then, he's got like places that are set up that vampires can stay at, like high luxury. He's very wealthy, but in each chapter, he visits a different country. So it gave me a chance to research foods, like 2 or 3 different dishes from each country around the world. Why I say that makes it in some ways not a great book is then it gets repetitive. Like, okay, he flies to the next country. He meets 3 different people. He talks to the people as well. I get to make their stories, and then he makes the dishes, and I get to research the ingredients. And so I don't know if it inspired me to make any dishes. It does inspire me to want to visit those countries. Like it might be a good book in that way for somebody that kind of is also even thinking about going to, by the time you've read the first 2 books, there's like 35 different countries with different, not just foods, but the tourist things he sees and all the stuff. Like it's a neat way to read about a bunch of locations, but it does get repetitive because he's sort of doing a similar type of thing just over and over again all throughout the book.
So definitely add billionaire romance and billionaire vampire romance to the hashtags for the story. Trust me, those 2 hashtags alone will pick up the traffic because there are so many people. If you just put that in the thing and the main character is very wealthy and does stuff like that, more people will want to read it because I have found the group for those type of books. So add
Wow.
those hashtags.
Right. So maybe like I could think about that, but start a different series because his character, but yeah, do billionaire vampire. Like take that
Yeah.
concept, but start something else. And
I'm just
that
saying, go ahead and start adding those hashtags as you put up your post.
right as I
That'll
put up
bring new
posts.
readers for
Right.
those
No,
hashtags.
and I probably need to do much better. And do you put the hashtags on the videos or on the Facebook posts or both or?
I put whenever I upload in the matter of the video, I put all the hashtags in it right before I put the link. And then you put the hashtags at the bottom of the Facebook post before you publish it.
Yeah, I
And
put some, but I probably don't put the best. Like I'm probably not putting the right ones or the best ones. That's probably something I need to look into a little bit more as well, so that my like you said, so that my post maybe get some more traction.
because I know there's a market for those books. I have found the market randomly by scrolling and trying to learn how to get better at making my own videos and put everybody and share everybody's books and all the places. But yeah, definitely research what genres you have and then add those. Oh,
Right,
speaking of genres, can you
and
tell
that's. Oh, sorry. It's like
you
a
say
timing
yours
now.
first and then I'll say mine.
Okay. Yeah, there's like a slight time delay, so I didn't mean to interrupt. But yeah, that's one of the negatives actually of being so prolific and doing so many books, is that like a normal author, let's say they did 3 books a year even, or like they can really focus then on marketing those 3 books, like for many months or all year long or whatever. But with me, I'm coming out with a new book every 3 days, and so I've got different ones that are free that I put up each week. But it never really gives me it makes it very difficult for me to focus any marketing that much on any one particular book, which is negative, because certainly even I myself sometimes, I know, like sometimes you feel like, oh, this is my best book, or this book's better than some of the others or things like that. But because I'm always doing new ones, it's difficult to really give each book individually the marketing attention that it might need so that it could take off on its own.
Okay, that is
So
that
yeah,
would be
to
my
writers out there, don't do what I'm doing.
okay. You had there's something that we talked about before the show that I definitely do recommend you explaining. You are an independent author and you post on Amazon, and you had explained how to. Let me preface this, guys. You go to his author page and then you click all books, and then he had started explaining to me how to use that drop down menu at the top, because you'll see it above all the videos. They'll say popularity. He had
Right.
explained how to use the drop down menu. Can you please tell me what you had told me before the show on how to use that?
Yes, absolutely. Now, on my website, I've got all the books broken out into categories. But one of the things, and particularly, like, I do a lot of free events, and Amazon by default, when you go to the author page and then go to all books, so if a customer goes there, they're going to see all my books. It's sorted by popularity, which is probably a good default for many authors. But with me doing all these different free books, whatever book or sometimes set of books have last been free is always going to be at the top, because they just got a whole bunch of free orders, and that moves it up onto the top on popularity. So my list by popularity doesn't really reflect any reality other than what's most recently been free in a particular order. And that's where I would recommend people in the upper right, right below the author's name, there's a sort by box, and you can do average customer review. And that might even be good for other authors that maybe set their books for me. But for me in particular, that's really a great way to see what, which of my books people are responding to the most, people are responding to the best. It's an interesting algorithm. I don't understand it perfectly myself, but it doesn't necessarily put all the 5-star books on top. It's sort of a combination of how many ratings they've actually had. And then, so there might be some 4.5 stars, and then there might even be 5 stars below, or 4, but it comes up to me myself. It's a good way for me to see what books my customers are responding to the most. And it's also a great way to see my books. It really, if I just did 11 fable books for free, then all 11 fable books will be on the very top of the list, because they're the most popular recently, because they're the ones that just got a whole bunch of downloads. But then, you know, it doesn't show you the variety. When you sort when you sort it by the average customer review, you get to see much better the whole variety of type of books that I have, because the average customer review actually goes across that variety very well. I see you have the kind of screen up showing it.
And on this one, you see the low to high. But as you can see, I have the drop down menu open, and you can see the different ones. Like the low to high will show you whatever free books he has or the cheapest books at that moment. Or you could do popularity, which ones have been bought most recently. And you'll see the publication date if you're looking for the newest book, the reviews, and the bestsellers, the ones he sells most.
Correct. And that's where I like the average customer review. Now, as a writer that writes a lot of books, one thing I have noticed on Amazon that most authors might not even run up against as a limit is you can see more on that list. You can go down, but it stops at, no matter which way you sort it, it'll only show the first 112. Which, as I start doing more and more books, it might make it harder and harder to find any of my books beyond the 112. And I suppose that's why some authors might start even wanting to divide their book, you know, that are prolific. They might want to start dividing their books up by pen name. Like the Ryoki Inui, he used actually a whole bunch of different pen names. But I myself, I want all my books under my name, regardless of how Amazon works, at least at the present time. And so if you search for my name just in doing a search, then there's no limits on the list. You can go page and pages and pages deep and see everything. So it's something, I wish it wasn't that way, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Thank you. I appreciate you telling me that and teaching us that. As you have written stories, is there anyone that you have found that you and your wife together have liked more than the others?
Well, that's where my wife so far, she really likes my Nighty Night Tales, actually. I read some of those to her, and that's when she said, can you translate those into Spanish for me? Because she wants to read them herself, and she wants to be able to read them to our grandson. She read some of my first books that I translated into Spanish, and sometimes I read her parts of my other books. I always tell her about what I'm doing, but she doesn't really read books in English as much. So it's more, she generally knows, you know, she knows each one that I'm working on as I'm working on it, because I get excited. So every day at breakfast, we always do breakfast together, and you know, I'll be talking about whatever I'm learning or writing and things like that. And she's very supportive, and she likes to talk about, you know, what she's learning, which is most of what she learns, it seems like, comes off of TikTok videos. So we get along very well, but we're a little different from each other. I don't even, like I don't really do TikTok myself. So.
That's why I suggest adding them to TikTok and later and have her help you find the different have her help you admin the page.
Right. No, and that might be something with my children being, you know, like 20 and 23, that maybe they could even be interested in. Like, I would probably pay them, but you know, give them a chance to make a little extra money, and maybe they could help me, because my children at that age, they're very into all, you know, TikTok and Instagram and all the types of things. And like I said, my wife is too. And I've never had time for those before I started writing books. I worked, and now I'm writing books. I always, it's just not something that I know that much about myself, I guess.
Have you learned something about yourself as an author that you didn't know before you started?
I didn't even know if I could do it when I did the first book. So I think what surprised me most is how I always enjoyed programming, you know, prior to this, and I think I'm surprised how much I enjoy. Even I would say I enjoy it more now than I did even, after my first 3 months or whatever. The more it's not diminishing. Every day, it's addictive, I guess I would say. Like I want, it's not, I mean, I'm pushing myself to do it, sort of my goal, but in some ways, if I didn't quite meet my goal, that would be fine as too. But I am surprised how much I enjoy the process, how much, and how addictive it is. That's probably the biggest thing. I want to do it, and I'm excited to do it.
Where do you like to write most?
Right here at the same spot where we're at right now. That's my virtual. But I work out of my bedroom. I'm actually in my bedroom right now. But so I just that's where I worked before. I amazingly, even all of my computer career, I pretty much always worked out of my bedroom. The first few years, not as much, because the internet really wasn't much of a thing. So, but even then, a lot of times I'd work out of my bedroom and then take the stuff into clients or things like that. Like I've always liked working from home. Surprisingly, I'm not much of a people, like I like being alone and just working from my room. So I feel very happy here just working.
I can totally understand that, and that is a great place to be. Personally, I'm in my bedroom closet at the moment because it's the only place to not get attacked by beautiful little monsters.
Right. Which is a nice problem to have at the same time. But I would hate to have to be in a closet the whole time.
Oh, I don't mind being in a closet. My closet is actually quite comfortable, but you understand. You said you have as many children as I do, so you have had the same type of beautiful problem.
Right. No. Yeah, definitely. Most of the time I'm working, so if my kids come in, it's not a big interruption or whatever. It just, breaks your train of thought or something like that. But I don't. This is my first live interview. I don't know if I mentioned that, so I'm very excited and happy to be doing it. But yeah, I actually. I give my mom a call every Sunday, and now that my kids are at university, I talk to them on Sunday as well. But otherwise, I don't. Otherwise, most of the time, I'm. My wife likes to give me time to work, and then we spend plenty of time together as well. But otherwise, yeah, I just like sitting in my room working and focus on that.
That is awesome, and I am very honored to be your first interview. I am so grateful. Before we go forward, I'm going to play the commercial break.
Okay.
I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. I did mention our sponsors, I think.
Oh, that's fine.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Reductibus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Your King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Octopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
Sorry, I forgot about mentioning that before the show, and I looked up, and it's usually about the time we play the commercials.
Oh, no problem. Actually, at the start, the commercials before we started, that Deadly Grounds was great commercial. And this Fake Corpse Publishing, you just have the production quality on both of those is really incredible. They were great commercials. I enjoyed watching them myself. So
I will tell Raz that because he makes the best commercials ever. And we didn't make the Deadly Grounds commercial itself, but the other ones after that one we did. Well, he did.
Yeah, the Fake Corpse Publishing one was I like the having made video games and stuff it looks very nicely done.
Oh, thank you. Did you actually publish any books about the stories? Sorry. Did you make up bedtime stories for you kids when you were younger, and did you publish those?
No, I never published any books until around like December 1st of last year. When I was younger and in school, and I only went to school through like 7th grade, but I did like to write. Like I loved it when the teachers gave us writing assignments, and I liked writing books. And I remember even. This was probably 6th grade. I wrote one of my they had choose your own adventure type books at the time were very popular. I loved all of those too. So we had a writing assignment and I did one of those, like a whole book, way more than was required. And I remember my teacher sort of being like, well, that's not a book. That's not the way you write books. And I only left school because I just started getting so much work doing programming work that I left. I didn't leave but it sort of like it disanimated me a little bit about writing, I guess. And then I just became a programmer and was so involved with programming for so many years that I still read. I've always as a youth I loved reading. I think I mentioned this when we talked earlier before the show, but I grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I live in Puerto Vallarta now, but I grew up there, and we had the Allen County Public Library, which is one of it's in the top 20. I think it's number 16 right now of biggest libraries in all the U.S. So it's like I don't know, like if it was 2 blocks by 2 blocks or maybe even 4 by 4, but then it's got 2 stories above ground and 3 sub basements. I mean, it's a lot of books, and so I was able to read very prolifically. Like I read as prolifically now as I read then as I write now, and I was able to. I continued reading a lot as I was programming, but I never really went back to writing books or anything like that over the years.
Okay. It would be so much fun to see your choose your own adventure books if you wrote one now. I just
well, actually, yeah. So have started a series. It's called Forge Your Own Path series. Obviously, Choose Your Own Adventure is trademarked or whatever. Like that's their actual name for it. I refer to it that way because that's the way everybody originally knew it or was introduced to it back in the time. But I've got my Forge Your Own Path series. Those are the books I do that are only ebooks. Now I could change them, like Choose Your Own Adventures, where it says go to this page for it, but that would be a lot of extra work. And by making an ebook, it's kind of neat because you can just click, if you're reading it, and you can use the Kindle app on iPads or Google devices. You don't have to have a Kindle device, but when you're making your choices, it's all a link that you can click on, and then it takes you to the next part of the story. And those have been, I only have 7 so far. I definitely have a lot more ideas for that series. I'm going to be doing one more in December even. I haven't quite decided which one. I like doing new books in the series too, because then when I set them free, it brings attention back to the rest of the series. I guess that's not a pro tip or whatever, but one of the things I read most on Quora is do books that are in series, because then when you do more books in that series, it can bring attention to the old ones, which is true. When I do standalone books, I do the free event, but then unless I do another free event, how do I ever bring attention to it again, particularly doing so many books? But if I do books in a series, if I do a new book in that series, even though they're all sort of standalone, but they're all linked together by the concept of Forge Your Own Path in this case, or fables anthologies. So on the fables books, my first 5 I did, they've been very well received. My 6th one, my 6th one is actually rated a little bit less. It's called Mystery at the Haunted Manor, and it's got a lot more sort of puzzles in it, like things that you got to solve in one part, and a little bit more complex, where the first 5 were much more like Choose Your Own Adventure, where the choices you make, it can be a little bit more random in some way in the first 5, whereas the 6th one, and then the secret agent mission, I actually did. There's even like computer code in there. There's decrypting things with just simple like text matching, but you get a message and here's what it was encrypted, it tells you, and then you get another message and you got to look at how those letters line up to like decrypt it, and then you got to choose the right choice based on decrypting it correctly. Those books, at least as far as their ratings go, they haven't done super bad, but like the rest of the books in the series are around 4.5 stars, and those books are between 3 to 3. But like people don't seem to quite like the ones when I make the puzzles really, really complicated. They seem to prefer more where they can make the right choice or the wrong choice, but it's more like a luck type of thing as opposed to actually having to think a lot. So as I go to my 8th one, I'm going to go back more to the style that I did with the first 5 than what I've done with the last 2.
Dude, the amount of thinking and creativity it takes to make something like that, and you've done 7 of them. That is amazing. And definitely, I would love, because I know I was thinking beforehand whenever I got the Manor book that is the one I want to read next as soon as I finish the ones I'm arcing for the publishing company thing. And yeah, okay, you just find new and improved ways to blow my mind and impress me in your work.
Here, let me look at the date. Not that I don't want people to buy my books, but I do have in December, just to mention, and I post all of them on my Facebook page, but I'm having 19 different free book events, which is way more than I've ever done in any month before. And for altogether over 50 books. So which, as I look at my calendar, I'm trying to figure out it's on the 26th, on December 26th. So the day after Christmas, the first 6 books in my Forge Your Own Path series are going to be free. The 7th one, setting things free on Amazon, just to explain how it works a little for people who aren't authors and might not know. You have to be part of the KDP Select program to be able to set them free. And then you can do a free event on a book every 90 days. but that means within that 90-day window, you can't do another free event on that book. And so that's why only the first 6 are free. Plus, I kind of hope maybe some people, that are completionists, maybe they'll buy the 7th one. But also
I've done
I
that.
can't I can't set the 7th one to free because it's recent enough that within that window, I can't set it to free again yet, so that they will all be free together at the same time. But December 26th, the first 6 Forge Your Own Path books are free. Like I said, I get great comments on them on the Facebook post. People seem to really be enjoying, particularly the first 5. I like the 6th and 7th one myself, but the 7th one, definitely, if you're not a computer programmer, you're not going to like it.
Or if you like those, I was thinking as you were talking about it, there are games where you have to go through and you have to solve puzzles like that. So
right. That's what's fun. Actually, yeah. Talking about games, some of my first programs before I started programming professionally, I did do video games. There was the people. I can't remember it, but for the Commodore 64, there was I think it was CompuServe, and then Quantum Link. There was a Quantum Link service. So I did Commodore 64 games, and I used to really like creating text adventures. So you asked, and text adventures were great because you could do a whole little parser for the text words, but it was sort of like so. Now, what's neat about doing a Forge Your Own Path type book, though, is when you're writing a program, you can have variables. Variables are things that you can assign values to, so I can keep track of things. But when you're doing a book like this, it's just chapters that you can send people to. You don't know what they've chosen before, so it's you can't make it quite as dynamic as you could as if it was a program. In some ways, it's more complicated because of the way that it's limited. Your choices can't really take into reflection the other choices that they've made prior necessarily, other than being on that part of the past. Sometimes I'll have the same chapter twice, but with just slight variations because it's really on different paths based on choices that they've made prior, but to lead them back to the same type of thing. And that's also why I did not do those books. Those are the only books I don't have paperback versions or hardback versions, because they get long. And I noticed all the Choose Your Own Path books were pretty short and cheap. And as they get longer, that makes them more expensive. As an ebook, it doesn't matter what the length of it is, or that you've repeated some chapters, because you want to account for these variations, because the ebook's cheap to download. There's no price in getting it, really. So I don't need to worry about the fact that, like, having some reader disappointed that the same chapter is like very similar sometimes, maybe, but with 3 variations. There's no table of contents in my Forge Your Own Path books. You always start at the start, and then your story, branches out from there based on your choices to all these different chapters that you can go to. But they're fun to write. They're, talking about jumping around like there, you're writing a story that just, with every decision point, it's starting to grow and branching in more and more different directions. Sometimes you can try to bring it back together and then branch out again, things like that. Just mentally for me, it's like I like writing those books.
Because it's almost like you have to write each set in its own document or folder, and then you have to figure out how they coalesce. And figuring out that, I have not figured out how you would write it, but I am so grateful they exist.
Well, I was just going to say, and I hadn't thought of this earlier when we talked about how I write, like outline or by the seat of your pants. The 2 words you use, like pantster or planner or something. But those books, I didn't think of it till we started talking about. I don't do an outline on those books. You almost couldn't. I start at a point, make some choices, and then, like, your first chapter might have 3 choices, and then I'll write those next 3 chapters, and they have but I don't know where they're going to end up at completely when I start them, or how they're going to flow. Sometimes, like, I start with kind of a concept, a theme I want to write about, but I don't create a complete. Those books, it would be hard to create an outline because of, they're jumping all over and can connect and flow in different ways. So those books I actually do much more by the seat of my pants than with an outline.
And I have put the link to all of them because yes, dear viewers, I own them all. I just didn't know what they were yet because he has 100 and something books. And I've only been collecting since he randomly popped up on my page. I say years because I know I had found him the year before. I just didn't know it was in December. And I am one of the completionists. I'm like, ooh, these books are free. Oh, I have to pay for that one. Oh, well, yoink. Or I'll find a new one in a series I didn't know existed before, and it's free or not. It doesn't matter. It's coming in because he has become one of the ones, whether or not I have finished all the books, I want to collect them all so I can read them later. So,
Right.
guys, check him out.
And as an author, like take my new Untamed Hearts of the West series. When I do the first event tomorrow, it's all 3 books that are free. So I might not really sell too many. You know, some people might look at some of my other books. I might sell a few. I might not sell too many books right now, but because they're all free in that series. But then that's the thing. When I do the next 3 books, I'll set those free. It won't be at the same time even because these ones will have already been free now. I can't set them free again until their new 90-day windows or whatever. So when I do the next 3 books, those will probably those 3, I might set them all free together, which is also the nice thing about a series, just for authors out there, is you can then promote the one series link instead of having an individual post for each book, where then you might have to pay to boost each individual post. You get much more out of your money if you're sending them to a series. But with the second set of books free, maybe there will be some people that didn't get the first set of books. They didn't notice the post. They were busy. Who knows? For, new people to me. Yeah, maybe some of them will then see those first 3 and say, hey, I want to buy one of them, or if I'm lucky, all 3 of them.
And yeah, definitely. It has gotten to the point where I don't know what I have and don't have of yours. Lately, I've been leaning more to the kid ones. Dante's been like, more, I want stories. So we do physical books that he already has, or we'll find a digital one. And then I found the dragon one again, and I'm like, let's start this one, and then we'll do a couple of letters. And because my goal, he is a math whiz. He can divide 62 by 2 in front of you with Legos, and it'll be correct.
Wow.
But
I do have one. My math fiction book for kids. And I think I might be setting it free sometime in December, but it's called Magic and Number Kingdom. And actually that one came to be is I looked at the category on Amazon under and if you sort by average customer review, it's actually my second book. It's got 7 ratings, and all of them I'm clicking on it. Well, it's got 7 ratings with a 4.8 star average. But it's in a category that you can see children's math fiction. It's a category on the Kindle ebook side. When I went to the top 100 free, at least, yeah, if you go to the top 100 free right now, I'll send you the link in case you want to share it with readers, or just look at it yourself. But if you go to the top 100 free math fiction books for children, there's only 6 that are free. So it's not an incredibly popular category, but me coming from computer programming, so sometimes I look at Amazon, how do I get inspired? I'm trying to think of what book am I going to do next? I go to the Amazon categories and I look at categories. And so I saw this category called, math fiction. And I was like, I'd like to try to, how do you write a book about math that's fiction? Now, like I said, I sort of did that in my last Forge Your Own Path book. It's got math riddles and everything like that in it even too. But that's more of there's no big riddles in it, but it's a book about math. That's a story about a boy, and he goes through a kingdom, and basically, but it's for really young kids. He visits the 1 village and then the 2 village, but in each village he has to solve different math problems with those numbers, but just as part of the stories, it's something to read to kids. They don't really have to solve the problems themselves, but he may enjoy something like that. It's been rated well.
Now that I've found that there are physical copies, I've put it in the cart. It's going to become a Christmas present because you're like, math book.
And
I'm like, yes, we need that.
Great, another sale.
You are going to help make Christmas happy because last year I loved getting them indie author books because it's like Patricia Harris's Pip book. He knows the first one by heart that he can repeat it back to me.
Wow.
And
And how
that's
old
how
is
much
he?
we've read it.
And how old is he now?
He is 5.
Wow, that's really good for 5 years old.
So
That's great.
we've got him other ones, and because I love now that I know about that. I know what indie author book, kids book he's getting this year. Thank you. You have helped Christmas. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to, like I said, I've got so many events. It's hard for on December 13th, all 4 of my Alphabet Explorers books are going to be free. Those are the Alphabet Dragons, which you already have. You talked about Alphabet Fairies, and then Alphabet Mysteries and Alphabet Adventures. So, like with 50 different books free just in December, like people could get enough books to probably, the people that might not be able to read quite as much.
Okay.
Or something. You can get enough books to keep you busy for the whole next year.
Okay, I'm going to send you I'm gonna send you the hashtag fill your Kindle thing. Make sure you put this in that post, any of the posts,
Okay.
hashtag. And
you're gonna send it to me in the private chat, or?
yeah,
Okay. No, I will copy it off right now. I'll put it. Yeah, I haven't seen
that
it yet.
will alert people. That is a widely used hashtag, and it will catch their eye and let them know on whenever you post your free books. Add that to your hashtags, and people look for that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see the post for some reason. Maybe
So I just put that in your private message right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Did
sent
you
it to
send
a
it
Facebook
already?
Messenger.
I see it on my Facebook message. Fill your Kindle. Wow, so that's one I could use, since all of my posts are for my Kindle books. Obviously, only digital books I can set to free. I could put that on any of my posts then.
Yeah, put it on all your free posts. Hashtag fill your Kindle. It is something I know for a fact Kindle readers look for.
I
And
would definitely do that. Like sold. That's
okay.
I didn't know that, and that's why I said I put some hashtags, but I sort of just make them up. I don't do it based on any logical or knowledgeable sort of decision.
You've taught me things. I'm hoping that's why I'm suggesting those, and then I'll send a thing for your vampire books after the show. My suggestion, because that will catch more readers' attention because they actually look for those a lot.
Great. Yeah, no, I actually took the hashtag, just sent it to myself in an email so that I'll start using that even tomorrow.
Cool, because I suck at emails because half the time Google doesn't even want to send my email, and I send stuff to my publisher and I have to send it 3 times. She's like, I didn't get it, so I'll send it again. So yeah, Google hates me.
No worries. I'm old. Like I've got some of my friends even that are close to my age, and they'll be like, "How should I contact you best?" And I'm like, "Send me an email." And they're like, "Email?" Like I'm like that's some sort of I don't know. I've just I feel like I've been like I've just always I like emails because I can read them when I want. They don't like pop up like notifications and interrupt my day, and I can organize them and search through them but I might be old fashioned in that way.
But as being that you're an older person, I know you know who Isaac Asimov is, but you
Yes.
probably know who John DeChancy, Robert A. Heinlein, and Harry Harrison are.
Yes, Heinlein was actually one of my favorite authors, who is Stranger in a Strange Land,
Yes.
and sort of his writing things. The word grok, which I guess Elon Musk is using now, but
Yes.
and sort of just opening up, sexually, and then the way people do great. I love Robert Heinlein, and then. There was another one. The guy that wrote Dune, I think it's Frank Herbert, but then he had a son and he wrote a book called The Garbage Chronicles. I feel like that's the name. and I read that book, and in that book they
Okay, does the
I'm just
stainless
looking at it.
steel
Yeah,
rat
it's called the Garbage Chronicles. Yeah, by Brian Herbert.
Okay.
And that was first published in 1980. So I would have been 13 at the time, but I must have got it right when it came out. It came to our library. That was an obscure but also kind of a great book, and that it had a character who was like transvestite, which was rare to be in books at that time, and she could like unzip her shirt just by like thinking or something like that, which was very interesting. But it was completely different than the Dune series and the things that his father did.
Oh yeah. Does the stainless steel rat ring a bell?
No.
Okay.
The
It is a book series.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of it. It's weird. I even as a kid, I read a whole variety. Like I went through, I read a lot of Beverly Cleary books, like Mona the Babe, Mouse on a Motorcycle. I read Encyclopedia Brown. I don't know if anybody, probably some people, and they might still be, I'm sure Beverly Cleary is still popular this day. Encyclopedia Brown, in many ways, was my inspiration for the character. In the Alphabet Adventures, it is one girl in all the stories. Instead of every story being different, it's the Mary Mead, the one girl. But in my mind, really, my inspiration for the character sort of came from Encyclopedia Brown, who was, this smartest kid in town that would always solve these cute little mysteries in the town or whatever. And so that's what I have her doing in my book. But obviously everybody reads Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and like I said, I read The Borrowers, but I hadn't heard of that series. But I wasn't necessarily. I would say most of it science fiction, though, and also Robin Hobb with Assassin. That's more recent, but. And then as an adult now, I do like Tom Clancy books too. I like Dan Brown with, is he the Da Vinci Code author?
Yes.
So on my Anaya Hawk books, going back to them, on my sixth Anaya Hawk book, I tried to do it sort of in what I thought would be a little bit in the style of Harlan Coben, who obviously is a great writer, way above and beyond. His books have been turned into TV series, but I really tried to kind of feel like, oh, I'm doing it in his style. But my Anaya Hawk book I'm writing right now, which will actually be free next Sunday, so I got to finish it over the next 2 or 3 days, so I've got it on my schedule already as one that I want to have free next Sunday. On Sundays, I like to do my new books at least. But my latest one, it's a mystery. Most of them, they're murder mysteries. So she's solving a murder, but I feel like this one's a lot more like Dan Brown or Da Vinci Code in solving the mystery. Like it's called The Watchmaker's Paradox, but she ends up going all over San Francisco and having to find all these little different puzzles. Some that are going back from over 150 years before the time she's currently in solving it. So I feel like it's more like a Da Vinci Code. So even though they're all Anaya Hawk books, sometimes I take a completely different approach from how, I'm still, those are my only mystery books, that series yet. And I think, my mother loved mystery books. Like Agatha Christie was her favorite. I've never actually read that many mystery books myself. And so other than Encyclopedia Brown. and so I I read a Harlan Coben, and I did read all the Dan Brown books. I liked his recent science fiction, Michael Crichton. I actually read the popular ones, not always having that much time to read over the last few years. But I am trying to write each. Yeah, so they're all Anaya Hawk with their bio enhancements in this future, but they're not all written in the exact same style because I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to write the perfect mystery.
That will take time because your perfect mystery will not be the same as Marple's. It will not be the same as Columbo or as Murder, She Wrote. It will be
right.
how
and I have
comes
seen
out.
Murder, She Wrote. And one that I'm watching with my wife, which is a much older series, but for some reason we just but we're now getting near the end of it. But we watch Pretty Little Liars, which is a mystery in a way, with the A character, and who is in somehow they keep you addicted, even though every episode they find one clue and they never solve almost anything. But you want to, yeah. So Nighthawk, this new one, I feel is most like. I feel like it's the best one out of all of them so far. But like I said, a lot of times I feel like that about whatever book I've written recently. But the first 6 books I did in my first 3 months. So the last Nighthawk book I did was on February 18th is when it came out. So it's been 9 months since I've even visited the series, since I've tried another mystery. I'm going back to it now as a much more experienced writer than I was then. So I feel like I'm doing a much, like, even though all the books do sort of tell a progression of her personal life going forward. So in some ways you could say it'd be good to read them in order, but I would recommend people, even yourself, if you want to read one of mine, I think this might be one of my better books. I wouldn't recommend to read the first 6 first, read the 7th one. And then if you like it, you could be like, well, I want to know more about all of her backstory and go back to the other ones. Because if you start with the first one, you might think these aren't written that well, and you give up before you get to the 7th one where I finally maybe got it right.
I'm one of the weird ones. I want to I like starting at the beginning, because sometimes I'll find a like 3rd or 4th book and then I'll be like, okay, so there's more beforehand. So it's like the Forge Your Own Mystery one. I just put that all in the links, well, in the comments for everyone to find. And I've put your whole book collection on Amazon, on the Unprinted Pages group. I've added the blog post that you had sent, and later the link to this video will be in there. But I want people, whether they buy them or not,
Well,
or
I don't mind. I've got lots of great fans on my Facebook page, and a lot of them, definitely a lot of them just get my free books. I'm okay with that. I got lots of free books when I was growing up at the library. So what I was going to say, the 7th book, the one I'm writing now, will be free next week, Sunday, on December 8th. But for people that are patient and do want to read them in order, it is a progression of her personal story. On December 30th, the first 6 of them will be free. So if if you want to wait, you could get the 7th one on December 8th or the next 5 days, and then on December 30th and those next 5 days, the other 6 Nighthawk books will be free. That's one of my 19 free events in December.
Okay. No, what I'm saying, what I mean by are not are the ones who have gotten them for free, because I randomly find posts all the time of yours where the books are free and I haven't got those yet. So definitely, I recommend just buying the whole series. If you're just getting one for free, go back and click the buy all, because it's worth checking out the full series. My kid already can tell you that he enjoys the dragons. He enjoys trying to figure out the alphabet, and I didn't know about the math one yet, so definitely that is going to be a one that I will probably do over and over, because he loves counting. He has 3 counting books and I know them by heart now.
Well, yeah, this one, I think the Math and Number Kingdom is fun because it sort of tells about math in a story in a way that makes math feel like fun, and you could see how math can apply into real life a little bit more or whatever, as opposed to just being a math problem. And certainly don't want to discourage anybody from buying more of my books. Like at some point, I'm doing this now. I'm hoping by, if I meet my goal by the time I'm 63, I do hope by the time I'm 63, maybe I'm making enough money off of this that like it'll help me with my retirement. Like I'm definitely not against people purchasing my books.
Okay, let me find Fairy Friends. I misspelled fairy. I'm going to definitely, since I'm thinking about it, go ahead and add that to the group. And
Fairies is probably,
okay.
I was going to say fairies is probably the word that I misspell the most, because so many books I've read have the British spelling, which is the FAE R-I-E. And then I try to go with the American spelling when I write, but I find myself correcting. I think I read so much at some point where it is F-A-E-R-I-E that I try to do the American spelling, which is F-A-I-R-E, like not E-Y, but the other one's F-A-E-R-Y. Mine's F-A-I-R-Y. But yeah, it's one of those words where even myself, I go to type it and I start typing it the other way sometimes, and I got to catch myself and say, no, I'm doing it this way.
Well, we spell F-A-E-R-Y, and I'd put it in F-A-I-R-Y because that's what I grew up doing. But after joining the Fairy Friend, well, the Fae Corps, I gave us a little kids group, and I every so often I've put others in there, and I'm just trying to keep up with all the ones because there are like 9 authors that I'm trying to keep up with as a PA, and also do my own writing. And
so you're busy too.
I just I have yours on my Kindle, that way I can share them with my family. Because all 8 of us are using the same Kindle service, and the kids and the adults, and it's just a good way to share everybody around here. And that's why I wanted to share you
I
on
personally
here.
like I saw the Fae Court Productions is FAE. I actually like the FAE more. Like I said, I tend towards it, but then I catch myself. Most of my customers are in the U.S. really, and so I try to spell it the way that's most common, I think, in the U.S. But I myself just tend towards the FAE version myself a lot of times. I don't know why that is.
Well, that's fine. We want that spelling. We love that spelling. Okay, we're reaching the hour and a half mark. Well, we went past it.
Wow.
So, my question is, where do you want people to find you?
Probably one of the easiest ways to find me is you can just go to samueldenhartog.com. And that's where all of my books are really grouped nicely into the different categories, into the different series. It makes it, each book has its own page with a little video trailer that you can see and read about what the book's about. Now, in saying that, if you go to facebook.com, Samuel Denhartog, author, if you can spell my last name, that's always going to be the tricky part for a lot of people. But at Facebook, Samuel Denhartog, author, that's where I announce all of. I do a post on every single free event that I do, and then I also I don't do tons of different pages, but I also have my page on Goodreads, which is just well, the best way to get to there probably is to go to my website, and then there's links to both my Facebook and the Goodreads and all that. On the Goodreads, I do a blog. Very low amount of followers on Goodreads. I like Goodreads in that people could ask me questions unrelated to any specific book I just posted about, and I can answer, and then people can even see the history of those questions. So far, I have very little action or interaction or attraction on there. I do a blog post about each new book I do on Goodreads, and every now and then about my journey or writing or my thoughts even on writing romance. I do other things. So those 3 places: Facebook, all of my free book events are there. My website, just to see the books and see them organized in an easy way, and then Goodreads to see my blog posts, or if you wanted to interact with me in other ways that would be publicly available to everybody.
Okay. And the last question would be, what book do you want them to get most next of yours?
I would say 2 books. I love My Magic of Coal Mountain. That book's currently out and available. And next week, Sunday, my new Anaya Hawk book, The Watchmaker's Paradox. I'm not finished with it yet. It's actually probably going to take me 6 days instead of 3 that I spend on most books. But I'm so excited about how like I said, I started with an outline and then it's evolved, and I'm having a lot of fun writing it, and I think it's going to end up very, very good.
I know it's going to end up great. And As for me, I hope you guys find me here at Owl Light and Fakor and all of us across the Dorkening. And I hope you come find Friday with the Library in the Blue Box. And if you'd actually like to read my books, please check out State of Mind. And I'm under Jennifer Elliott on Facebook. That's my author page. And please just read. I don't care who you read. I really hope you read Samuel's and all of his books. And our newsletter comes out on the 1st. You get to read, and I agree with Pyle. Thank you for being on the show with me. You get to read Pyle's first book, first story ever, and being published with us. And if you find the newsletter, you will find a link back to this video, because I want you to find this video, and I want you, whichever side you're on. I can't tell which way I'm pointing. Whichever way is Sam, please check out Samuel Denhartog's book. And thank you for being here.
And I just want to say thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you for contacting me and doing this. And I had a wonderful time, and I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to hit the ending video and the end stream. And if you had any other questions, please stay. Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.